Everyone remembers the day when Orlando Letelier stepped into the black 1973 Chilean winter of exile. But what most recall is the cold September morning in 1976, when the car he rode in exploded on Sheridan Circle, Washington, D.C. The blast killed Letelier, a former ambassador and minister under Salvador Allende, turned outspoken critic of Augusto Pinochet, and an American colleague, Ronnie Moffett. What followed was not a lone act of violence, but the unmasking of a continent-wide conspiracy. To understand that morning, you must go back to the coup of September 11, 1973. The overthrow of Salvador Allende ushered in Pinochet's dictatorship, and with it, a new instrument of repression, DINA, Chile's secret police, led by Manuel Contreras. In an era defined by Cold War paranoia, right-wing regimes across South America forged a darker alliance, Operation Condor, a coordinated program of surveillance, abductions, torture, and assassination, aimed at erasing leftist dissent beyond national borders. Operation Condor was not rumor. It was a real infrastructure, intelligence sharing, hit lists, safe houses, and cross-border teams that tracked exiles from Buenos Aires to Rome to Washington. The Letelier assassination exposed that network's reach. The bomb that killed him was constructed and planted by operatives tied to DINA. One of the masterminds, Michael Townley, was a U.S.-born agent working with Chilean intelligence. Townley later admitted his role, and testimony tied Manuel Contreras and DINA directly to the plot. Investigators in the United States discovered that the murder was part of a dossier of extrajudicial operations. Diplomatic protests and legal battles followed. But the conspiracy's depth only became clear years later. Journalists and historians pieced together how Argentina, Paraguay, Bolivia, Uruguay, and Brazil exchanged intelligence, transported prisoners, and even assassinated opponents on foreign soil. Declassified U.S. documents and archives recovered after the fall of authoritarian regimes revealed that U.S. agencies had long-standing ties to many of these security services, shared counterinsurgency information, and in some cases overlooked or tacitly condoned the campaign in the name of fighting communism. The human cost was staggering. Thousands disappeared. Husbands, mothers, students, union leaders vanished into detention centers, death flights, and clandestine graves. Operation Condor's files, seized and leaked in later decades, contained lists of targets, reports on operations, and correspondence that mapped a violent bureaucratic logic. The Letelier assassination was a diplomatic rebuke, a murder on American soil that could not be easily dismissed. Legal consequences were slow, partial, and hard-won. Townley's admissions and later trials in Chile exposed the chain of command. Manuel Contreras was eventually convicted in Chile for multiple human rights crimes, including the Letelier murder. The exposure helped galvanize victims' families and human rights groups throughout the hemisphere to demand truth and accountability. But the conspiracy left more than criminal convictions. It left a legacy of fear and fragility. Democracies shaken by repression took decades to rebuild civic trust. The revelations forced governments and historians to confront uncomfortable truths about Cold War realpolitik, how ideological battle lines blurred into state terror, and how foreign policy can enable atrocities. Today, archives and court records still speak in clipped bureaucratic language about operations and targets, but the names behind those pages humanize what was orchestrated: displaced scholars, silenced artists, grieving families. The Letelier assassination remains a crucible moment, a public violent proof that Operation Condor was not a conspiracy theory, but a coordinated state enterprise. The story is a cautionary history of how secrecy and ideology, when fused with state power, can reach across borders to try to erase dissent. The work of remembering, investigating, and prosecuting those crimes continues, because the only antidote to a conspiracy that thrived on silence is relentless revelation.